Today on the Point Blank Performance YouTube channel, we're back on the build series. If you guys missed it last time, we pulled out the engine on the truck, the Gray Ghost. You can check out that link here. That engine went off to Waggler competition, got built. We've got the engine back here. We're gonna be diving into that. But first off, we're talking about our C5 HP package. 1,500 ruble horsepower. That's what this truck's gonna be featuring. We got a bunch of parts laid out on the table. We're gonna discuss those, but the one big thing is, everybody wants to talk about, how big is your turbocharger? Let's check it out. So taking a closer look at our GT55 with an 88mm compressor wheel. This guy's big, it's heavy. So what's the one downfall of having a big turbocharger? Slow to spool, but this is a racing application and we're gonna race the truck. Now here's a couple things. We went with an 88, we're gonna make over 1,500 ruble horsepower. Could we make that kind of power with a smaller turbocharger? Absolutely, but we have the flexibility of this. We can always use this for a compound turbocharger setup. That way, if we don't like how it races, we can change it out and we go to a compound, off we go. So, you guys make 1,500 ruble horsepower. If you've done it on an 88, a Garrett, or something smaller, definitely drop us a comment. So we've got our big turbocharger here. We gotta feed it from the engine. What does that? A manifold. We went with a Steed Speed T6 manifold. Three things about it. One, right off the bat, it's a T6. That turbocharger sits right on it and it feeds it all the exhaust that it can eat. Second thing is the flange. You can see right here, it's a race series. It's flat, it's cut, so that way you get all your exhaust gases running straight to the T6 flange. Third thing, all these individual ports here, what are they for? You need to know how hot that engine's getting. That way you don't melt down your expensive engine. So we're talking about boost. We gotta move air from this compressor housing through a pipe, through an intercooler, and back to the engine with the least amount of a resistance as possible. What do we go with? 4-inch piping. Everything's all stainless steel. We went with vibrant Vangean clamps. Why? Because of this. If we're going down the track, we spend all this time, all this money, we gotta get down the track. We don't need to blow a boot. If we blow a boot, we're on the side, and we push it home, and we lose a race. So we've got that covered. Next thing is, of course, it's a drag truck, hood stack. That way it's official, 4-inch, we're good to go there. We've covered the manifold, we've covered this big GT55 turbocharger, and we've covered the 4-inch piping all the way to the engine. Now the one thing we're leaving out is this. What is heating up this engine so hot that we need all this massive amount of equipment? Let's check that out. So moving on to the next table, we've got a ported cylinder head here, got a bunch of billet parts, and we know where the heat's coming from. The white box is over here. S&S diesel. We've got a custom set of injectors and high pressure pump, all outfitted for a C5 HP package, 1,500 ruble horsepower. We're gonna be covering these injectors entirely, a whole new video on the dyno installed in the truck. Guys, it's a big subject. We're gonna make for sure you guys get to see everything about it. We will tell you this, the injectors are over 200%. So, moving on, high pressure fuel pump. What do we go with? Not one, but two 12mm CP3 S&S diesel pumps. That's good for 2,000 ruble horsepower. We're gonna call it a day on pumps. Injectors, what you guys wanna see, and you'll get to see it. Now, let's jump back to the cylinder head. So what's a main goal on a race cylinder head? Maximum air in, maximum air out. How are we gonna achieve this? Start with the valves. We've got 4 valves here. How much bigger are they over than the factories? 1mm more. It doesn't seem like a lot, but you have 4 valves per cylinder. You've got 6 cylinders in line 6. So it makes up a lot. Next thing is, we gotta seal this cylinder head to an engine. The groove right above the valve, you can see here, is pretty deep. O-ring goes in there. It's metal, but think of it like an O-ring. When these two mate together on the engine, the bolts hold it down. They actually seal all the combustion gases inside of here. So we're covered there. Next point, we're gonna be spinning it up in the RPMs, 4,000 or 5,000 RPMs. So we've gotta make for sure that we don't have a valve to piston contact. If we do, our cylinder head's probably ruined and our engine's probably blown up. How do we do that? 103 Hamilton valve springs. Think of it like this. If you're jumping on a trampoline, stay with me guys. If you're jumping on a trampoline and you jump softly, then it's everything that's controlled. You're going down and up. Jump with me more. I'm 190 pounds. Jump with me. If we move on and I grow to 500 pounds, when I jump, I'm going to the bottom of the earth and I'm gonna break my knees. That is exactly how valve spring works. You don't want to do that. So that's covered. valve springs. Next thing is we got to get maximum air in, right? So everything's been ported on this is the exhaust side, on the exhaust and intake side. That way we get all the air in there, we get all the air in out. Speaking of that, what makes that kind of power? We're going to dive into our C5 HP package engine build. So what do we have? Our Wagler Competition Series deck-plated 6.4 liter Cummins engine. Let's take a look at the bottom of the engine and work our way up to the top. So looking at the bottom, this engine's outfitted with a girdle. It does have the billet main caps as well. When we get this engine on a stand, you guys get to see it. We'll flip it over, take a closer look. Now, at the front of the engine, peek through the cam hole, you can actually see the Wagler Competition billet rod's good for 2,000 brutal horsepower. Now, we keep talking about a deck plate. What is that? It's a 1-inch spacer that sits on top of the engine. This allows us to actually put sleeves that are replaceable, or a better term, rebuildable, when we're using it as a competition race series engine. Taking a closer look at the pistons, you can see they're bright and shiny, not a factory piston. They're billet. They're not a 6.7 liter piston either. They're a 5.9 liter piston. So we've got our C5 HP package laid out for you guys. From the big turbocharger to the ported cylinder head, all the fuel, then we wrapped up with our Wagler Competition Series deck plated engine. You guys are going to like, subscribe to the channel, and here's why. Every time we do a mod to the truck or start putting this guy together, you're going to be right there with us. We're going to take you through the entire build. Then what do we have to do? Got to put it on the dyno. We got to back up that C5 HP package and lay down that 1500 or maybe a little bit more. You're going to have to like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next week here back at Point Blank Performance.